Ready? Carrie, you ready? Kelly, we're all good? All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. So this is a special meeting, so it's not a workshop. This is a special meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, January 11th. If you would, silence your cell phones and iPads and all the other stuff. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mayor Owen.
Here.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Clody.
Here.
Commissioner Sacks.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. So the purpose of this meeting, we have two meetings today. So this meeting is just for redistricting. And then at 6:30 p.m. we have a regularly scheduled meeting where we'll talk about all of the other topics that are on the agenda for that 6:30 meeting. So, but today, this meeting from 4:30 till hopefully not quite 6:30, but for now, is just redistricting. So it is a public meeting. We always start with public participation. So if any members of the public would like to address the City Commission, this is your chance to do so. And again, the topic is redistricting, hopefully. Any members of the public? Seeing none. All right. We'll close public participation. And City Manager, kick it off.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out a few things before you start your discussion. The two scenarios that you have before you, which is that's scenario 5, version 2, and scenario 5, version 3. Now, at the workshop, we presented 5 scenarios. The commission selected scenario 5 with making some changes during the meeting. Lonnie went upstairs, made the change, came after lunch, and we showed you the changes. And then the commission was supposed to go back, look at it, and provide any comments to the city manager. Some of you have provided comments, some not. So version 3 is actually the revised scenario 5 after I received all the comments from everyone. So that's comment number 1. Comment number 2. Initially, we indicated that the population was 30,515. The correct population is 30,253. So if you realize you are throughout the scenarios, I think there was some additional, or the addition of the numbers were not like they were off. It's because of this. That was an incorrect number in the beginning, the 30,515. The correct number is 30,253. So with that in mind, this revision, version 3, it addresses the comments that you provided to us throughout the workshop and also through the emails. So what we're looking from this workshop is for the commission to discuss this scenario, this version, and see if you have any comments. And if you do, then we'll make the changes, and then hopefully that a map will be selected, and then we'll come back to you on February the 8th with the first public hearing, and then on February the 22nd with the second public hearing. Okay. And if you have any questions, Lonnie's here, I'm here, and the city attorney's here.
Before we kick it off, just for the analyst and me, and I get this, I'm going to say up front, but just so that we're all on the same page and it's not some sneaky conspiracy theory, I want to explain it to the public and to the commission if they catch it. So the correct number is 3253. If you add these 4 digits, I did it twice, but I still may have made a human error, but if I add those four numbers, the 7715, et cetera, I get 3246, so I'm off by like a head count of roughly 7. You and I exchanged some emails on this, Lonnie, but I don't know, could you just maybe, or you can, I guess, just explain why you may have some small discrepancies like that, and help us understand that.
When you look at the entire map for the city and we're looking at the population, it's very difficult looking at and estimating the number of people in that area. So he used the best map and the best information he received. And so when he did the first time, and he was off by 300. And so now when you add him up, I think the last addition that he gave me was the 30,253. I'm not sure if you have any different number, Lonnie, now, or is that stick, or because he's saying it's actually 246.
As far as I know, it's 253. But
Yeah,
I think it's already a whole
yeah,
It's really way below the threshold. To find those little slivers of geometry, the software doesn't really pick them out.
yeah,
I have to go individually for every little chunk of geometry to find
okay.
it. But I didn't know if it was that.
I don't feel it is.
Another would be concerned.
I don't feel it is. I just wanted to make sure we were very transparent on that and understanding there may be some minor discrepancies. It's software. We're not, we're not doing all this by hand. So it's within, we're well within tolerances of what I would think would be acceptable. So anyway, but I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
And then the difference between each zone is 5% or less, and actually, we took the highest number today, Katie did, and the lowest number, and I think the difference was 3.48% or something close to that. So we're within the 5% difference between each zone.
Yeah, I get about 3.7%, something in that neighborhood. Yeah, between the zone 1 and 4, it looks like. All right, gentlemen, we'll open it up. Questions, comments, thoughts on this item?
Quick question to
Yes, go
open it up, Mayor. Khalid and staff, did the U.S. Census Bureau provide or give any assistance in attaining these numbers?
I cannot hear you.
The U.S.
Sorry,
Census Bureau these are U.S. Census numbers, or
Yes.
what's the source of these
Yes.
numbers, basically?
Yes.
Thank you.
These are the numbers, Commissioner Sachs, that we received from the county, and we were waiting for, I guess, the official numbers from the federal, but then they said this is the official number. So the numbers we received, these are the numbers we used, the consensus.
And we use it's a GIS mapping
Yes.
software, some kind of a software, yeah. Okay,
Good.
other questions, comments? Yes,
Yeah, I apologize for not responding back earlier. Time I got your email, I was already in the vacation mode and almost out the door, so. My only concern is there's a small portion off of Mission Drive that's assigned to Zone 4, the south part of it. There's really not a whole lot there, maybe one or two houses, and to me, it seems like that's a piece that's just a piece of 4 that's out there when it's more surrounded by the Zone 2 or the pink, and why that couldn't just be added into that, because sometimes it's difficult when you're talking to constituents. They go, well, I live off of Old Mission Road, and I go, well, it has to be one address or 2 addresses, otherwise it's.
so Kelly, can you zoom in basically almost right in the dead center of the map? Yeah, down now. Keep on going down. And then over. So that little section basically right there, the purple, no, so,
You talking about surrounded by this lake or,
no, the.
Talk about Mission.
oh, here?
Yeah.
Right down
Yeah, I think one of them is the church property and the other is the radio station.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So you're talking about the separation between the two properties.
Here,
here? Right there, right
what
there.
about this?
No.
No,
down,
south.
Right there. You're on
see the
right
little
there.
brown?
this.
That's it.
That.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Then that kind of makes Zone 4 west of Turnbull Creek. Otherwise, they got those 2 little pieces of property that, I don't even think people live there. I think they're more businesses than anything else.
So you're saying to make these 2 little properties, make them pink?
Yeah.
Make them pink?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how, what's the population in that area, but I wouldn't expect it to be a lot.
As long as 4 is giving up population, we're moving in the right direction. Because
yeah.
4 is on the high end right now anyway, so.
Yeah, you know what I'm afraid is, I don't think the issue is with 4, but if you add it to the pink, we might kick it up, but I don't expect,
No, because,
yeah.
come up to the
that
mic so that we can capture.
Part of the criteria was to try to keep neighborhoods intact for zones. So what you've seen in the cream color is one neighborhood, the pink is another neighborhood. So as the city expands, that neighborhood would be part of, 4? Rather than pink. I know
So,
it doesn't look right, but it
Yeah.
went by neighborhood boundaries.
do we have the ability, though, I get that, and the map probably even has like these neighborhoods, like when you click, you're clicking on a bigger bubble than just these you're not going parcel by parcel, obviously. But at this point, do we have the ability to do that? Because we're using the term neighborhood, but we all drive by that area. There's no neighborhood there.
There is no
It's a-
neighborhood there.
It's a church and a radio set. I think
Yeah,
you're right.
You know what I'm talking about? Not, it's not like a subdivision. Neighborhood was how the city's
Yeah.
broken up into
Right.
20s, 25.
You're
neighborhoods,
basing
I
it on how we define it in the comp plan, those areas,
believe. Yes.
based on those maps? Okay. So in our comp plan, we have neighborhoods defined. And so
Gotcha.
he's saying when he clicks and uses those comp plan neighborhoods, that's why it's in the brown versus the pink.
So so those two properties must be tied, what, with the Corbin Park area back here then? What
Yeah, I wish
neighborhood
I knew
is that?
offhand what the
Yeah.
neighborhood was. To the pink is, I think, southwest, it's called. It may be Corbin Park, or, no, not even Corbin Park, Lake Waterford.
No, it wouldn't be.
Offhand, I'm really not sure, but
Yeah.
it is two neighborhoods. But if you don't want to stick with that rule in that instance.
Yeah.
It was
even
just a
think-
guide to go by.
Yeah.
I couldn't stick with every neighborhood
Yeah.
throughout the city.
I was thinking even, so now that you pointed out, zone 1 is the lowest from a population as it sits right now, and zone 4 is the highest. You've got, if you look at all that, if you can, Kelly, zoom back into that kind of same area, you've got all that area really from the corner of Mission and 44 all the way back to Corbin Park Road, all the Vicks Way and then all that area, Carolyn Street and Walker and Patty and all that stuff. I would say, what if all that was just flipped over that way, that it was a kind of a hard intersection? Anything, if all that were flipped to, oh no, that's given more to 4, never mind. It goes the other way.
I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference anyway, just that little area. And I think every time these maps are gonna change in the future anyway.
Yeah,
I think it's, if you want, Randy, if you want it, I think it's 6.5 dozen the other, there's nothing really to it.
Right.
I think those two areas, the population's almost nothing.
Yeah.
The numbers are tiny.
It's not gonna really change.
It looks weird on the map.
Another question, Mr. Mayor.
sure.
Sir, did you give much thought to the Captain's Quarters and the Manatee Riverside Park area seems to be in Zone 2, and I wondered what the rationale was besides the population of Captain's Quarters. It seems it's not beachside, it's mainland, and I just wondered why it was added to Zone 2.
So,
talking about.
Yes.
yeah.
It was just to help with the numbers. Once again, I think at Captain's Quarters, there's about 100 in population. Of course, it includes the Manatee Park. There's nothing there, no population. But working back and forth originally with Brian, we were kind of just working these, just to make the numbers work as much as possible.
Okay.
So if you change it to 1, it would add, 100 to 1 and take away 100 from 2, which would still be in our threshold.
Yeah.
I don't mind having it, but if Mike would like it, now mainland.
Does it have to do with the whole contiguous and connected by roadway? Does it play into that at all, or are we okay
does.
either way at that?
It does. I think the reason that they had the Captain's Quarter and Riverside Park is when you come off the South Causeway, it will be kind of contiguous to that area. So, but I think Commissioner Sachs can say, well, if you come in from the North Causeway, then you have to go to that one, you have to go through another zone to come to it, which is,
Yeah, okay.
Well, if you want to keep neighborhoods together, you go down Canal Street, which is proposed to be entirely in Zone 1, and you would be faced with Captain's Quarters, which would be in a different zone, which
Yeah.
would basically be on a physical island by itself, separated from the rest of the zone. I don't like this division anyhow, but it does make sense that it be part of the neighborhood on Canal Street.
Yeah.
But both zones are deficit in the number of people that's in them. This particular scenario, why it'll be good for 10 years because the census isn't going to change. But in the real world, the western part of the city is going to grow much. It's going to be totally out of whack as it is now, and we're doing nothing to solve that problem. I know we got to deal with the numbers we have now, but common sense. Just like going back to the two little pieces of property over there. We're supposed to make zones square or blocks. So you look at, I'm picking up part of Corbin Park as it is now. That lies north of Corbin Park Road. It would make sense to continue the zone line straight down the street all the way till it would intersect with Old Mission. It would be virtually maybe 10 houses at the most, but in the world of geography, it would make more sense.
Yeah, the constraint because I brought up a few of those things, we just went through it again, is this whole neighborhood thing, which we can't see represented here, is what, but I did see, I was in his office at one point and I saw him kind of hovering over the map and it shows like the neighborhood, which is invisible here, but I think that's been the challenge, so.
Mayor, I had an idea, but I don't know how, because every time you try to shift, so if you take, this would be zone 3, if you take it all the way like this, and then extend this one over here. So zone 1 would extend this way to offset some of the concerns that Commissioner Cody was talking about, that in the future, this zone would be actually overcrowded, but then what happened is you're gonna put this on the offset, because it's not gonna have enough population, and you're gonna start moving this way. So every time you touch and you play with it, it makes some other concerns.
I mean, I'll tell you my thoughts on that, because I noticed the same thing. I mean, Zone 4 is going to be the one that grows, and yet we're starting out with it the largest. But the reality is the 5% tolerance is somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 population. So it's not like we can overcompensate. If we could start with Zone 4 being, a couple thousand less, anticipating the growth, then yeah, that might be the strategic thing to do. But the reality is it's gonna, they're going to be within a few hundred of each other. They have to be. And so, I didn't lose a lot of time thinking about that.
I mean, what do we currently use the neighborhood designations for now anyway? Nothing.
Nothing.
So why are we struggling with this so much when we don't even use them for anything other than as a term? Because the neighborhood council doesn't even do, neighborhood council is set up by zone. So, I mean, why are we even considering trying to keep neighborhoods intact? I think the geographical would be the better way to look at this and to strive to kind of square things off a little bit.
Yeah.
So that we know that in 10 years, we're going to move further west again. So this will kind of help that process.
I would, Corbin Park, which is very near to your heart, I'm sure, really should go, being I'm expanding inland, that's the place where I should be expanding to, because there's not too many other places except there's a couple blocks that are between 1 and 3 Industrial Avenue down to Wayne Avenue. There's some houses in there that could be switched between 1 and 3. Now, everybody votes for everybody, so that doesn't concern me at all. But I think we should present a plan that works now and can be easily adopted and changed in the future. If you look at the redistricting plan for Ormond Beach, you'll see what they did. They didn't do drastic changes such as we're proposing here. They shifted things a block here, a block there, and they have kind of the same problem where their west is growing very quickly. So I won't belabor the point about 5. I'm going to say it one more time, and I'll be done. First of all, regarding the neighborhoods that we show in our comp plan are really almost irrelevant because they were set up by other people for other reasons. They go over zone lines, they go everywhere, and they should be looked at. So we shouldn't rely too much on them. But just the general guidelines established by the state say that there's really two things you got to pay close attention to. One, not to disadvantage any neighborhoods that contain people who are less economically well-doing. We're doing a very good job. We're keeping, in any one of our scenarios, kept that in one zone. That's fine. The second one is it says you're supposed to utilize existing political and geographical boundaries. We're doing the geographical, we're not doing the political. Look at it from the standpoint not as a commissioner, but as a citizen. You're taking everybody beachside north of, it's like 3rd Avenue, and they're all used to being in Zone 1. And now we're telling them that we've arbitrarily switched you to another zone for no apparent reason. I haven't heard a good reason for it yet. So that's my thoughts on that. I will not bring it up again, even though I think this is wrong, and I won't vote for it. So best in my mind is to try to balance it out geographically. I don't think Corbin Park and the two little subdivisions, Hawks Cove and the other ones next to it, have enough, or they have too many votes in them to really be shifted out completely. So we should just try to square it off.
So my interpretation of what we're doing, you're saying geographically, that's exactly what we're doing by putting beachside in one group. So I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. We have created a geographic boundary right there with beachside being one zone instead of chopping it in half and then having beachside constituent representing down into the heart of the mainland. So, maybe 6.5 goes together the way you look at it, but that's the way I see it.
I could live with it as proposed. I just think it's wrong. The physical connection over North Causeway is to Flagler Avenue and everything that's associated around it. So, but that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't agree with it. But I think we should try to heavyweight the eastern zones within the 5% over the western zones to try to maintain some sense of uniformity.
Yeah, and I'm not, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I don't know.
Right.
It's going to be, look, I have probably minor OCD, so this map bothers me unless we can create perfect little squares and boxes, which is what I would love. And I explained what I would like to see is strips from north to south. They'll look a lot like Zone 2, just work your way out west, and then every year or every 10 years, we're just kind of dialing in the north-south boundary. We're just kind of sliding those around. So that was my vision. So I agree with you. I'm not 100% happy with this either. There's some other things that I didn't like about it, but I do think it is progress. I do think this is better than it was. And the point about the people, the last thing I'll say about that is Zone 4, as it sits right now, has 10,000-ish people in it, if I recall correctly. So somewhere in our city, there are 3,000 people or so that are going to find they have a different commissioner once we finish this process. So we can't avoid that. It's just, where is it going to be? And so you can lobby it shouldn't be here and it should be there, but I say I'm kind of agnostic on that. It's going to happen. It's got to happen. So let's that's not I can't weigh that factor in, because then should it happen to people in Sugar Mill or North Beach? It doesn't matter to me. It just has to happen somewhere. So, from a timing standpoint, Colin and Carrie, real quick. Go ahead.
One more little thing.
We all need laser pointers today. Can you zoom in? I think you're going to zoom in. What area? Show her what area.
Off of Warren. There's one piece of property off of Warren that's in Zone 3 And everything else over there is pink.
Yeah. So that's right kind of in the middle of the white donut there. Down, over. Yeah. Yep, right above, go up with your cursor. Up, a little more, a little more. Up there.
That one you got in zone 3 when.
That's the neighborhood thing again.
So- But just north of that, at the end of that street, you got it in zone 2. It can't be two neighborhoods in that same section.
So literally, yeah, if you follow Warren all the way
You
up,
go
you
all
have.
the way to the end of the Warren. Zoom in, Kelly.
Yeah, right where you were. Zoom in more. Enhance. Yeah.
See, yeah, Warren in zone 3, but you go to the north end of the street, you're in zone 2 again. So it's gotta be.
Believe it or not, it does, it jogs those streets.
Right.
It does go back
I understand that, but when we get phone calls and they go, are you my commissioner? I go, I don't know, I gotta go find a map. Let me look on the map. I have one house on Warren Street,
Yeah.
you know, are you that one house? So, you know, from a practical standpoint, it's difficult. And especially if we're not using neighborhoods for anything other than the LDRs, it's a whole lot easier to change the LDRs than
So-
it is to wait 10 years to
Yeah, so
fix
Carrie,
one of these.
from your interpretation, like how bound are we, that term neighborhoods, my interpretation was I consider, Corbin Park a neighborhood. I consider, Coyasisi area a neighborhood. Waterford is a neighborhood. Your area is a neighborhood.
Historic West
South-
Side,
Historic West Side's a neighborhood. That to me is neighborhood. And, where you cut that off and define it is, how bound are we to that? Or could we apply some common sense sitting right here looking at it and say, okay, we've got there, now let's dial it in using
Right.
common sense from current day?
So the 5 traditional districting principles that we've talked about up here, contiguity, compactness, communities of interest, political boundaries, and incumbents. So I would consider the comprehensive plan neighborhoods to be existing political boundaries. You can't do all 5 of these things perfectly. There's a give and take to each of them. So I think there is the ability to, like Warren, pushing that into purple or,
So
Yeah.
you wouldn't have legal concerns if we went in and said, look, let's pick a zone, but both of those houses on Warren, or both of those lots on Warren should be in one zone, and we
Right.
kind of manually go in and do that.
yeah, the
That
2
doesn't-
things I'm most concerned with is making sure the population balance is
Right.
within 5%, and then just no violations of the Voter Rights Act, which we do not have. So
Gotcha.
I understand why he did it
Yeah, 100%.
that way,
Yeah,
and no,
100%.
you have the ability to put, tweak it.
From a, Lonnie, this is for you, from a kind of technology standpoint, does that break everything to go in and do that? Can we do that and go in and easily kind of dig to that next level below the neighborhood and pick lot by lot? Yeah, okay, got it. So, okay, so it sounds like we may be coming up with a few kind of tweaks. I would be okay with any of these, don't major heartburn, we'll talk through it. From a timing standpoint, we're wanting to get this on, we need to get we're hoping to kind of bless a version tonight. We're not necessarily, explain what needs to happen to make sure we meet all the timeframes we're trying to meet.
So it depends on your comfort level with where we are. If you direct 1 or 2 changes here, if you guys think it's in good enough shape that we can start moving forward with that as our final draft. We have to have a public hearing February 8th, a first reading ordinance on March 8th, and then the second public hearing and adoption on March 22nd.
And those will be agenda items in a regular scheduled meeting. We don't have to have a special meeting just for
Correct,
this. Okay.
correct. So, they are public hearings, so I would
Yeah.
imagine if the public has some huge light bulb
Yeah.
of some, that can be considered, but for the most part, you want this looking, we don't want to be making the sausage when we're now up against the deadline.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is we do have time if we wanted to give staff some more things to kind of dial in, but then go ahead and have, assume that's all going to be okay, and then have you all put it on that February 8th agenda.
Yeah, or we could set another one of these
Before that-
prior
the
to
second
February
week of
8th,
January, if we
maybe
needed
in the
to.
last week of January.
Yeah, Okay, so
What
I
we
just
have
want
as
to get
an option,
kind of all the
Mayor-
options on the table, so we know what we're trying to get today is, to me, we got to get close enough to the mark, which I'm comfortable with this. I could vote on this tonight, frankly. So, you know, if we want to take some of these things that we pointed out, those few properties on Mission, those few properties on Warren, if there's any others that catch people's eye, let staff dial those in and then get this scheduled on the future agendas. I think that's, I'm comfortable, I'm there, so.
So Mayor, if the commission decides to take this with some minor tweaking, we could do that and then bring it back to you on February the 8th. If you have some major changes, then I would suggest that
New
we would have
workshop,
another
yeah.
session,
100%.
probably like maybe in a week or so. That
Or we
way
could
you
even do it on the 25th, just as part of the regular agenda, just administrative item discussion if you wanted to.
Well, I would rather to do it before the meeting, this way we're set on a map, that we're
Yeah.
not waiting to that meeting, so,
So I've heard a couple of things pointed out from Commissioner Hartman. You've pointed at some kind of going, you know, starting back over concerns, if you will. So I'm going to come to you in a minute, but gentlemen, be thinking, I want to give staff some direction. The goal here today is, are we going back to the drawing board? Are we trying to do a broader overhaul, at which point we would need, it to me, another meeting just like this to do that, to see some new versions? Or are we comfortable enough with where we're at, giving these kind of minor feedback, and then putting it on that that February 8th agenda? And again, not that we can't change it, but at that point, it's like an ordinance that we're trying to see it through, and, you know, want to be overhauling it at that point, because we'll run out of time. So, Commissioner Colodi will come to you.
Moving ahead with scenario 5 is fine. I'm not going to revisit that again. I've said my piece. One thing I did hear that was brought up, perhaps by you, Mr. Mayor, was the Corbin Park and the properties being developed, Coastal Woods, whether they should be shifted around, whether that would make sense. It would make sense from the map standpoint. Whether it would for the number of people who live there, I don't know.
Yeah, the problem was it would grow. I was saying push 4 basically out just to Mission, but
Yes.
it would grow 4, which is the last thing we really want to do. And the problem is if we bring 1 further this way, there's no clear spot, not as clean as like a Mission. And you pick up, I mean, you pick up Hawks Cove, I mean, that's, I don't know how many people, it's got to be 80 to 100 people.
Correct.
So, you know, you could quickly throw it
That's
out
why
of balance.
I looked
Yeah.
at that, and that's,
Yeah. So
and there's no other way to divide Corbin Park up without it being divided up. So-
I think we would,
I would be content with the modification to extend the number 1 out to Corbin Park Road, and anything to the northeast of it would be in 1, and everything in the rest of Corbin Park would be in 4.
okay, so just bring 1 all the way basically to Corbin Park, so everything east of Corbin Park.
Very few
One. Yeah,
people in
yeah,
it,
it's
but
low-
it makes
low
a nice,
density, yeah.
makes a nicer picture. And one thing I do want to say, Talani, there are a number of places on this map where we have a dividing line and we have the same zone on both sides of it. So you're going to have to clean that up a little bit. If you take a look at Otter, there's a big block of property in there that is all in one zone, but yet there's a town line going around it. And there's a few things when you go out in the Waterford area where you also have the same situation.
So, I didn't follow that, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So Otter, so I'm looking at Otter, so you're saying it's got the same zone, so all that is zone 3, kind of both sides of Otter.
Yes,
What's the concern?
there are town zone lines that, the purple lines, I think they're purple.
You're saying like it's really not in the city limits, county?
It might not be in the city limits. And if it is in the city limits, then the purple line doesn't be there.
That is an issue with the software, but I can assure you that it's not affecting the numbers.
No, I don't think it affects numbers at all. I'm just, from looking at these maps my entire life, I don't like to see those things.
Gotcha. So it's a,
Yeah, when it got to the final
Right, and like there's a piece on Williams that shows it being in the town, which I think it is, but doesn't say what zone it's in.
Yeah, so, yeah, right, yeah. I mean, if you're talking on the mic though, so we can make sure to capture all this.
I believe part of that problem too is a lot of those properties are been annexed in recently. So this
That is true, we are annexing.
census data is from February, March. So anything that was not recorded before then might not be showing, so.
Well, we should make that adjustment.
But,
I don't know if we can, because we have to do it based on census, right?
yeah, we had to go by that date, the data from the census, we had to go by that date.
I think, but once, as we annex people in, they get annexed into whatever zone they're in, right? I mean.
Yes, so we
so-
should show that on the map.
Yeah. But we have to, I think we have to do it based on the census population.
But everybody that was in the city limits when we got the final
Which was
data
September,
from the
was it
Census Bureau.
September 18th, was it the date? Or something?
Okay, it doesn't affect the number of people who happen to live in that
We're
house.
going to annex in every year, so that number.
We should just have a map that's visually correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Okay. All right. Other comments, thoughts?
No, the only other thing from the visual standpoint is Wallace and 44 on the northwest corner where the Winn-Dixie is.
Yep.
I mean, that's showing zone 4, but there's probably a half a dozen houses, whereas everything else around it is zone 2 or zone 1.
Zone 1.
Yeah, zone 1. So, I mean,
It
Yeah.
should be shown in Zone 1, even though nobody lives there, unless they're in the storage units.
exactly.
And they probably don't vote.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just,
Even like the Bank of, I think it's still Bank of America that's across it's in the
TD
corner,
Bank.
that's in, yeah. No.
One
the-
hypothetical to Lonnie. So when we have a property who's in the county annex in, and for example, the Wallace Road property that Commissioner Hartman pointed out, when it's not colored, like for example, in there might be some confusion as to whether it would go to zone 3 or zone 1. When you make that determination, are you going to the comp plan neighborhood map to determine if it's going to be zone 1 or zone 3?
Which
If we were to annex in a property, so let's say this is all finished, 2 years from now, we annex in some property that right now is just white.
as far as I
How do you
know,
figure out which zone it goes into if it's kind of on a border? Is it based on the neighborhood map or is it based on some discretion or how do you judge that?
usually I get that information from the planning department.
Okay,
Whenever we get a new annexation, they
so
will,
somebody over
they
there
will
is
tell
making
me
a call.
what zone that will go to.
Yeah,
And how they determine that, I'm not sure.
So I would think they might be relying on those neighborhood maps,
Yeah.
in which case we might start tinkering with giving more discretion to planning, but just to point
it's
that out.
never gonna be perfect. I mean, you're gonna end up with some little nuances, so. Did you get your question answered?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Sacks?
yeah, just so that when you guys are kind of tweaking this, that just kind of look at those odd pieces that are
I think-
sticking out
I
there.
think try, just one good hard look, get this up on a big screen, get some staff in the room, look at like your major thoroughfares, the 44s, the missions, the major thoroughfares, and as much as possible, kind of keep stuff from kind of crossing those where, if it's pretty clean except for one little spot, see if we can clean that up a little bit. I think is what I'm hearing.
We'll do that, trying to clean up these little pockets there and
Yeah.
hopefully, see if we could even,
Yeah, like this one right here, this is Bank of America.
Exactly.
So this is 0 population. It crosses this one, so like really probably all of this, I think, I don't know what it should be, but. So,
I was even thinking to go to that vertical line
yeah,
and make all that, pink if it's possible. But then again, it's the population that we gotta play with, so we'll tweak it.
I'm gonna
The
come
only
back to
thing
another
is-
question.
Anything you take away from 3 and 4 is a plus.
Yeah,
Because,
actually, yes, yeah.
Because we're the 2 highest, so anything you take away from the 2
And
are
growing.
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that
Commissioner
we don't
Sacks?
care about our constituents, it's
So-
just,
Go ahead.
if I may have the floor. So going back to captain's quarters, Mike, I'll gladly offer that to you. Bring your numbers up a little bit, offers more clarity. I think, what comes to mind was what Susan Nayland said, one of our planning board members. She didn't want to see many changes. I paraphrase, but I didn't want to see many changes. I don't want our constituents to be confused any more than they are, because some of them think they can only vote for the commissioner in their zone, which is kind of irrelevant here. But for our purposes, we're going through machinations, and this is for the U.S. Congress, basically. So I'm all for clarity's sake, since it's a mainland parcel, Mike, if you'd like to take the captain's quarters, that would be good. If you don't want it, that's okay too.
Well, I think it makes sense, but I don't know if the numbers are going to work.
Yeah.
I think if the numbers work, it makes a lot of sense to me as well. I think it's just gonna come out of the numbers.
Captain Quarters, it's got a good
I
number
think
of,
it's around 100, so
Yeah.
you would be subtracting that from zone 2. And would that break that threshold between number 2 and
5%?
4?
we'll look into it, we'll look into it.
Well, if you go,
It'd be like 60 off instead of 30.
if you add Captain Quarters to zone 1 and drop zone 2 back down to Wayne, does it, or start coming back south, does that offset? You can drop it down until you pick up that 100 people.
Yeah, the problem is just zone 2, you're not picking anybody up in zone 2, you're giving up in zone 2. So it's gonna fall off the bottom. It's gonna be the limiting factor, not zone 1. Yeah. Which is gonna happen. I mean, whoever does this next is zone 2 is gonna have to grow, it's gonna have to cross
Let me
over.
say this, I'm happy with the map. We can make some minor adjustments. I think it's important to kind of move on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
We can sit here and nitpick, ticky-tack all day long forever. And then just think, in 10 years, there's going to be a group of people sitting out here doing the same thing.
Carrie, looking forward, just to plant a seed, so one of the main constraints on trying to get more conformity of, size and type of zone, I say size meaning geographical size, not population size, is this 5% threshold. That's a really, really tight threshold. I know that's governed by our charter, which is voted on by our people. We are due for a charter review. I think we put in every 5, we did a 5 and then
First one's
10.
5,
First
and
one's
then
5
every
and then
10.
every 10. So that's coming up, sooner than later. Is there a guidance or a threshold? Like, could that be something we look at, that maybe for the next time that threshold's increased to, 7 or 10% to give us a little more wiggle room,
Yes.
or not us, but whoever does it next?
So case law uses 10% as kind of a guideline. It's not a hard and fast rule, but
Okay.
10%, you want to be under that. I know some places go down to 1%, but yeah, 7% would be fine. Anything under 10,
Okay.
Would be
So we
good.
could, in theory, go up to 10. So that'd be something, if somebody can remember, and again, I won't be around for that, probably be around for the charter review, hopefully, but if somebody could remember during that process, we could give ourselves and that future commission a little more leeway to craft a zone and get more conformity of size if we had a little more leeway with the percentage there. All right.
So, Mayor, if I may, I think we have to schedule another meeting. So I'll try to do that, probably sometime next week. We'll bring the final version. So this one, when we go to the 8th, we have the one that you guys set your mind on.
Can we just do it before our next city commission meeting?
Well, if we take it to before the 8th, on the 25th?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do it. The only thing is we have a mini budget workshop at, I think it's at 5 or 5:30.
It's at 5, but you also have a meeting on the 18th to the
Yeah.
joint city commission
the
and
joint meeting, yeah.
utilities commission.
Well, that's a joint meeting with the UC, but we could do it on the 25th, Mayor, and start the meeting at, instead of 5, start at 4. With this, on the discussion on the redistricting, and then you have the 5 o'clock, the mini budget workshop.
I don't think this will require a ton of time, frankly. I mean, it feels like we're pretty close. We spent a lot of time and really in the weeds, but I was happy when I walked in. I could have been okay with any of those. And I
Yeah.
feel like
I think we've gotten close enough to decide tonight. I don't see the need for another meeting. We've talked about a couple minor modifications
Yeah.
that I'm sure that the
that's where
staff
I'm
has
at.
understood.
I think if, you've heard our concerns, so if there's some things you can do, if we break not break that model, but if we dive into the neighborhood a little bit and clean up some of these things, but frankly, if none of those things could change, this is, I think, close enough. So
If you-
I'm okay without having to squeeze in another meeting.
Commission
Sounds like
feels
he is, I
comfortable,
don't know.
then we're fine.
I'm seeing other nods, so.
I'm good too.
Sounds like everybody's happy with that. Maybe just distribute it via email. Once you get a final draft, distribute it via email, so it's out, public record.
The only thing is, when I do that, and I get comments, sometimes I have conflict comments from each one.
Yeah,
It doesn't help me unless if it's a public discussion. So that's
Yeah.
why I was thinking of the meeting, so this way when I go, I have a clean map when I go to the 8th. But it's okay, if I take it to the 25th and I just show it to you, then it's fine.
so I guess what I'm saying is if you distribute via email, if you get those conflicting comments, then we can figure out if we need another
Okay.
meeting. If you don't, then you know you're just good to put it on that 8th. And, because that's what I would do. Because I will promise you,
So
no comments.
The comment that everybody should give an email is, looks great, thanks.
Yeah, the only real issue, I think, is the captain's quarters.
Yeah, if that
And
works out.
that's fine in one, as long as it doesn't throw out our percentages.
Yeah, if we could make that change, I think that's probably the biggest, and then the other little cleanups that he talked about. Lana, did you capture all those? There's the Warren Avenue, and then there's that area kind of right around the Mission 44, just kind of all around that intersection, just looking at that as much as possible. So those are the two that I captured. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah, the South Mission.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then those two, South Mission, the church and the radio station down there on South Mission.
There we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, one of the things that those couple changes make, Turnbull Creek goes right through the middle, and it has everything that abuts Turnbull Creek. So that's kind of a logical reason for it.
Okay. Any other discussion on redistricting? All right. If not, that is all we had on the agenda for this meeting. Anything else for this meeting? Carrie, Kelly? All right, we will adjourn the redistricting special meeting. We'll be back at 6:30 for